Hi friends, Metaphysician Eric here. That's right. I'm going to talk with famous people today, sitting in for host Eric, and I'm going to be delivering the good news. That's right. Have you heard the good news? You are saved, my friend. You are saved by this metaphysics. It's true. Just send $100. Free intro. I put some work into this, people. I did. I know. You're welcome. This is my pre-intro. This is going to be a long video, probably. A return to metaphysics. This constitutes a return to metaphysics for me. When I began this channel originally, I was going to put up a couple of old things, a couple of cool things I thought were super neat and hope that everybody liked them. And then I realized nobody cares. And then I just started making a bunch of notes on my metaphysics book that I wanted to write. But I reached that wall. I stopped being able. I stopped moving forward in my metaphysics. Now I look upon the cycles. Looking upon the cycles. I go through these cycles all the time, and it's interesting they don't necessarily coordinate with one another. But there's a specific set number of things I get into for a little while, and then deprioritize something else. Right now, I'm back to playing poker. Or I was. I probably am going to go again. I don't know. Probably go one more time, one more loss before I quit. I'm actually basically broken even on poker. I've been playing the last couple of days, and I was up $190, and then I went back and I basically lost it all back. So I think I'm up like $10. So that's poker. It's annoying. It takes that long to not accomplish anything. That's what drives me away from it. Eventually, it's like this is dumb because it's too time consuming. If you're gonna make money at poker, you got to be exceedingly patient and do a right kind of a system and stuff like that. I'm just not that patient. Now let's look at an acceptance of fallow. In any realities, you can work them or you can let them sit there. And it's important for all the realities to sit there occasionally. Why fallow for a while till you feel like coming back to them? We have a misconception in this society that somehow, oh, well, you started that project, but you didn't finish it. Yet, you got a lot of years left. Maybe I won't ever, maybe I will. What do you care? Um, a linear look. So I construct in my own identity a linear progression. I'm aiming to get better at things. I'm aiming to improve. I'm aiming to learn more and understand better. I'm aiming to be a better person. Um, and as with all these other things in the cycles, different elements of what I'm aiming to do with my overall life narrative are prioritized over other ones. Certain times of, in certain cycles it seems to be. But overall, I am, after a long time of only moving forward on one dimension, that is professionally, and being dead in all other dimensions. I finally, when I quit drinking 2.5 years ago, began moving forward in multiple dimensions, and I'm able to do that sort of active construction of identity that I desperately wanted to do my whole life and didn't ever understood that I wanted to do it, really. Okay, next. The drive, set completion of the drive towards unification. A phenomenon in existence is the completion of sets, things having a distinct boundary, the completion of an idea or a model. Some models are open-ended and endlessly parsable, but they're not. All models are endlessly parsable in some direction, but they're not all endlessly parsable out. And when they're endlessly parsable in, it's self-eliminating. The weight gets decreased the more specific level of distinction. So, also I wanted to talk about computers. If you think about a computer as a person, or we don't think of them as entities because they lack awareness. But we do think of them as things that render that which they are. So right now, my computer is this little environment right here. It's the desktop. the background picture, the camera, the sight of me talking into it, etc., etc. That's rendered by the computer in direct reaction to our behaviors, to our actions. I want to point out that there are analogous relationships between all things, sort of. It's one of the fractal, not sort of, it's one of the fractal universe theories, or axioms, basically. That if one model has axioms, then all models have axioms. If one model has an atomic thing that can't be reduced further, then all models have an atomic thing that can't be reduced further. If one model suggests a relationship between, suggests a hierarchical relationship in which if these two are in conflict, X and Y are in conflict, X wins, all models have that kind of relationship somewhere within them. The thing is, the analog is not necessarily what we expect. So what we think of as being analogous, well, that might not be the actual analogous component, because the identity of a given object is contingent upon its role, its purpose. Not its context, but its purpose. Its context is what it uses to accomplish that purpose. Okay, so that's the pre-intro. Now let's go on to the table of contents. An 8-section series of videos I'm going to be making. This is section 1 right here. And you can see on this piece of paper the list of the sections. I'll read them to you. Section 1, Entities and Reality. Section 2, Time Magic. Section 3, Negative Rights and Status Quo. Section 4, Cognitive Functions in the Fractal Model. Section 5, Implications for Group Behavior and for our own understanding of groups. Section 6, Implications for Self-Development. Section 7, Meta Framework. And Section 8, Questions Going Forward. Okay, let's go on to Part 1. This is a table of contents for Part 1. And what we're going to cover in this first section of this video here are realities, grammar, observation, space objects, slabs, space magic, debate, mechanics, and the rendering of time objects, and then my ENTP story and a transition to section 2. So I'm going to repeat that real quick. Number 1, realities. Number 2, grammar. Number 3, observation. Number 4, space objects. Number 5, slabs. Number 6, space magic. Number 7, debate mechanics. Number 8, the rendering of time objects. And number 9, ENTP story and transition to Part 2. Okay, next, let's go on to the next page here in my little notes. And we have debate notes. Here's what I want to say about debate. Debate provides, now again, these analogies can be found in many different things, because all modes or all nodes or modules in the fractal metaverse are patterned through the same set of slabs. More explanation will come, I promise. Number 1, flow. The flow in a debate is a piece of paper where you write down all the arguments. So if somebody says, my first point is that oranges have vitamin C, you write down oranges, vitamin C. A debate round has a beginning and an end. It's turn-based. So you establish things on your turn, they respond to them on their turn, you respond to that on your turn, like that. Stuff happens, some of it makes it onto the flow, and some of it is not on the flow. Stuff that is not on the flow might as well not have happened because it has no impact on the round. Arguments get their strength and nature according to how they link to other objects on the flow, most importantly framework objects. So in other words, whether or not oranges have vitamin C is going to matter is going to be contingent upon what the resolution is, If it's we should buy oranges instead of apples, let's say, it's going to depend on that, what the resolution is. Okay, well that gives us some framework to understand it. I see why we're talking about oranges having vitamin C. We're trying to say they're better than apples. Okay, but it's also going to depend on your framework. So the resolution constitutes a meta framework of sorts. The framework itself explains something like we should choose the fruit that provides the most health benefits. And if the apple person is saying apples have a total sugar content on average that's higher than oranges, then and that's why we should prefer apples, then he's saying we should choose the fruit that tastes better. All right. They can both be right about their contentions and not resolve the issue. And not be in contradiction with each other. So Joe's saying we should get apples, and he gives all these things about how they're prettier and they taste better. And Bob wants oranges, and he gives all these reasons about how they are healthier and they prevent whatever. Then at the end of that round, there's no reason for either of them unless somebody's made arguments about which is more important, healthiness or taste, or why we should prefer one or the other in this case. All right, so let's look here. So as a matter of fact, in debate, two teams could both argue exactly the same contention level points and be in direct opposition to each other through a different framework. For example, this happens a lot with my casework with my kids because we tend to run anti-government stuff and everybody else operates under the assumed framework that the government is good and that to the extent that it's bad, it's just because we need to do it better, not because it's fundamentally broken. So the good reason to do that is then you get to case turn the opponent's entire case. When they say it's going to get services out to an extra 10 million people, you say, I know, it's going to get services out to an extra 10 million people. That's why we should vote against this. They say, no, that's why we should vote for this. And then you make your libertarian arguments. You say, well, you're not accounting for the fact that you're saying blah, blah, blah. That's where the initial established points have a different status than those that are responsive. And there are two such statuses in debate, and it's establish and respond are the two kind of actions you can take. Now, in a framework debate, there's usually some overlap. It's usually not, we should adjudicate only on taste. We should adjudicate only on health. Often people will try to fudge around with the framework and be like, well, we should do a cost-benefit analysis without actually narrowing the criterion at all for adjudicating the round. And the meta framework in any given round is, how are we supposed to be deciding this anyway? So if you go with the default meta framework in a debate round, you should decide it according to who has the most impact standing at the end of the round on the flow, or at least the most weight in impacts. You can have an impact that the only impact is, oh, we win the round. That's a heavily weighted impact, and yet you might try to say, well, that's not even an impact. Well, it is an impact because it's an impact in the round, which is what you're there for anyway. So the meta framework might say something like, Judge, the role of the ballot, that is to say your job, is to pick the person who's advocating the position that most needs to be heard by everybody in this tournament. And you should vote for me so I can continue winning rounds so that I can spread the word about this important, valuable message that I'm sending. You might run that as a meta framework, role of the ballot stuff. But it falls apart because that's not, it's a lie, right? The role of the ballot is to vote for the team that does the better debating, and if, in fact, he votes for you, it will be because he was convinced by that argument, which means you did the better debating. So you can't possibly say that he should vote for something other than doing the better debating, because to the extent that it's convincing, it means it was more effective debating. All right, now let's talk about the important qualities of debate that make it relevant to metaphysics in general, substantially relevant. Okay, linkage. The linkability of an object on the flow relates to its vector. And its vector is the type of argument that it is. If I provide an example of something, that has low linkability. if I provide a mechanism argument that has high linkability. A mechanism argument establishes that an observed particle, which is the term I'm using here to represent an element of an argument, or an element upon which an argument relies, that an observed particle necessarily links to an element outside the argument, regardless of whether the element is in the argument or not. So basically what I'm saying is, if I were to say, well, actually, I've got an article here that says vitamin C is now believed to be the leading cause of brain cancer. Well, then my point there is oranges are bad because they have vitamin C in them, and vitamin C is bad. And you can't get oranges without vitamin C, so therefore oranges are necessarily bad. Well, in that case, I've made a mechanism argument of sorts because I've said anytime we have vitamin C, regardless of whether it's inside the orange or not, we have an increased risk of brain cancer. And therefore we should prefer apples because the reality is oranges do have vitamin C. Alright. It's typically a little bit more mechanistic than that one, but it's an okay example, I guess. It'll do. Now, public policy. The nature and progression of human progress is determined by the narratives that humanity uses to understand itself. Now, each individual human being is rendering their realities independently, and they are rendering it out of a couple of different things. Most people are mostly rendering their realities out of the application of time objects that they Abraham, stop. So, I mean, the progress of human civilization is one that is reflective upon one that reflects, or one that is a manifestation of the implicit frameworks that we have, that we don't even know we have, because we never think about it, because the policies, behaviors, whatever, that infer the necessary existence of that framework are normalized, such that they become not worthy of one's attention. Now, note that one of the facts of the metasphere is that realities interact with one another. We can conclude with a high degree of certainty that other reality-generating machines are walking around. They're not just illusions in our reality, almost for sure. They aren't just things we're rendering to fill our reality, because it's possible to be completely baffled by something. We experience things from the outside world in a way that presents us, we process things from the outside world by turning them into slabs and fitting them together. Which brings me to the next one, the transition. Okay, a little bit of a weak ending to that section. Sorry about that. Let's transition. Let's go on to the next one. And the next section we have is to better explain entities as real-time renderers. Okay, entities as real-time renderers. So, number one, experience occurs within us. It has to. It can't occur anyplace else. Our focus is in one of two spots. It's either on data incoming or it's on data received. Or if our focus is not in one of those two places, then there is a third state, and that's the creative state. Our focus is on creation at that point, and that's a hybrid sort of a state that I don't really want to get into too much at the moment. But I will say this, that creation is how we render realities converted into our unique file format, into a shared format that works in other realities. And you'll notice here I'm using an analogy with the computer thing again. If you think of us as computers rendering our own environment as we're going through it, then obviously we're rendering it, but we have to have somebody clicking the mouse, right, to be rendering it. That's what the data stream is. It's potential mouse clicks. And to the extent that we attend to something, then we're clicking that. And whether we attend to it or not is based on a complex and subconscious set of algorithms that we're not even aware of, although we can sort of be aware of it, but it's pretty machine code level, which says like, oh, well, it's shortcuts. It's shortcuts to decision making. Once you've established in your brain, like, and whenever I touch that thing, it's really hot because it's fire, it burns me, it makes me have pain, then you don't have to walk through the reasoning of it next time you encounter a fire. You don't go, should I go in there? Let me see, what do I know about fire? You just say, things that are hot, stay away from them. You don't even say it. It just becomes a behavioral reaction. It becomes internalized so much that it's just a behavioral reaction. It involves no conscious thought at all. And it doesn't earn your attention even when you do it as to what it is you're doing. A lot of people do lots of stuff that they're unaware of until others point it out. Or they watch themselves on video. I didn't realize how much I scratched my nose, or rubbed my nose, or blew my nose until I started making videos all the time. I didn't realize certain other traits as well, certain other habits that I had to break or adjust or deviate from in some way to provide a resolution to the dissonance between what I was seeing and what I was imagining myself looking like. So, we do know then that within this rendered reality, we've got multiple things going on. We've got a stream of data coming in that's being rendered immediately. It's either being rendered into objects, that is to say, static things. I might feel the wind, but it doesn't. I can't internalize it as it is. I can only internalize it as a symbol that's static, representing a fluid process. And we can't deal with any fluid processes as they actually are, except by doing them. So the creative process is the most fluidity-oriented of all the processes, insofar as you cannot, generally speaking, create anything without going through the whole process. You can't shorthand it if you're creating for external reality. So what we see here is that we've got all of these different terms that we use for, which are normally associated with physics, quantum mechanics, alternate realities, different dimensions, drawing distinctions between things, claims of legitimacy, and warring metaverses, hierarchies of algorithms. All of these sort of things, these terms, but the ones I want to focus on here are alternate realities and different dimensions. Our tendency is to think, when we're talking about different universes, alternate universes, different realities, we tend to imagine, I do anyway, I imagine like space. I picture outer space. I'm not talking to you, fucking phone. Okay. Yeah, it fucking threw me off. Okay, so the other thing is, Well, that's just in your imagination, as opposed to a space object. So I want to get a little bit more into that for sure. And the way I want to get into that is by transitioning to my next little section here, which is called ENTP Troubles. Okay, so here we go. ENTP Troubles. Other ENTPs. This other ENTPs and me provide a good example of the interface between rendered realities. And I want to stress that within each of us are multiple realities. We engage with other people's realities using different ones of our own according to the circumstances and other sorts of things. When I say that, you go, well, you're not talking about reality, you're just talking about different ways of looking at things. Okay. It's not outer space reality. It's not outer space different universes. It is the fact that the different universes aren't next to each other. They're infinitely internally parsing and infinitely externally linking. And each linkage creates a new linkage object that in turn is infinitely reducing on a parsing level and infinitely linking on a linkage level, potentially. Remember, we've got this thing called a state of quantum uncertainty, or a state of quantum superposition. When you talk about a state of quantum superposition, you mean that we know that everything's parsable and everything's linkable in some sense or another. That some things are less subject to parsing in certain models, but that if they play a different role in a different model, that same object may be very subject to parsing. It depends on the rules of the model. Additionally, we know that everything can be linked somewhat if it's a thing that exists. Now, here's an interesting notion. You might have something that exists in your own reality and exists for nobody else. And you then might be able to create a time object to try to share that reality with other people, or to allow that reality to interact with other people. I have realities in my head that I don't normally let interact with any other people, but not for any reason other than it doesn't really seem of interest, I guess. When I say I have realities inside of me, I mean the various little pretend worlds that I go to sometimes. There's the forest place with the cabin that I go to. There's the other world that's the alternate world that's like a planet someplace, and it's very snowy. I lived there up there on that hill. I'm the king. Well, I don't know where I've been. I'm a good king. It's like one of my stories in my head, but it's not a story for consumption, right? It's not a novel. It's not a short story. It's just me playing pretend in my head. I don't think I've ever really told. I've never told anybody about the snowy place with the hill and this ocean is down below there, and that's where I live, and I'm the king. I've never told anybody about that place before. It's a really cool place, by the way. You should go there sometime. It's basically like, if you imagine, I'm going to draw a picture of it and I'll show it to you. Alright. Like, here's the ocean around here, like a cow. And this is like where the land hits, okay? And this is very steep hill here, but it's not a cliff. And down here, this is the farms and stuff. And then this goes up here. And then all up in here are all these, like, mountainy areas. Like, well, I mean, it's a mountain. And my house is, like, right here. It's right there. And it's kind of a sunken house. It's not tall. It doesn't have 2 stories. It's kind of like a ranch-style home. But it's super cool. Alright, it's well kept. It's like somebody's there who does SI is taking care of it besides me. I never go there. It's never messy. And I've got some cool gardens out here, and I don't know what I grow there, but just some like nice looking plants and shit, you know. And there are servants. I have servants, of course. I wouldn't have servants in real life, but this is real life too, and I get to have servants in this real life. Because why do I get to have servants in this real life? Because according to the rules of this universe, all the relationships that anybody has with me are entirely consensual, and they're fully happy to be engaged in them. And there's bad guys in this world too. I guess I should tell you about them. I'm actually embarrassed to talk about this. I'm embarrassed to talk about my pretending. See, this is what I'm talking about. I'm like, I know this reality runs afoul of certain other realities that are more dominant than this one. It's not a battle I want to fight. Like, don't make fun of me for pretending or something. It's not a battle I particularly need to fight either. But yeah, I haven't even told you about my magic powers. Let's just leave it at that. Okay, so all that notwithstanding, um, this. Let's read this thing. Time Magic and Time Wizards. I'm a time wizard. And this guy I met at the poker table yesterday is a time wizard too. And he's a particularly annoying one. Another ENTP. And he got me. He beat me. I don't talk about the poker. He did beat me at poker too. I don't care about that. He beat me at what matters, which is the verbal sparring. It, well, basically what happened, I was just sitting there silent. And I was watching him do his thing. And it was making me more and more annoyed at him. Because he was doing this, he's playing everybody at the table. He's playing them all. He's chatting. He won't shut up for one fucking second, this guy, right? And he's playing it like a fucking conductor, right? Get that guy a little bit annoyed at you, express a certain amount of like, and he's constantly defining himself the whole time to everybody and shaping all of their understanding and trying to engaging their emotional reactions too. Now, it's just some variation between ENTPs. I'm pretty sure he's ENTP. He might be ESTP, but I think he's ENTP because he's got a good sense of FE, and so do I when I choose to use it. This guy has directed his attention to poker, and I can tell he makes his living in poker. He makes a lot of money in poker. He had a fucking huge stack of chips in front of him by the time I walked away from that table. He'd taken at least 80 of mine. I lost $120 last night, and I lost it to, at a variety of different people and over the course of a long, long time. And the thing is, what sucks is I was up. Basically I'm broke even now, so that sucks. But anyway, the point is, this guy at this table was a absolutely master time wizard of everybody else at that table. He was shaping all of their realities the whole time. He was taking advantage of one key thing. People who have their attention on the data stream, the now people, the action people, the S people, they are highly susceptible to you continuing to throw new objects in there now. Remember, each of those S's is going to sit here and they're going to be processing data stream, and when they hit an object that says to them act or react, then they act and react. So he's got this ongoing pattern going on, which is having that effect on the S's, which is everybody at the table except for me and him. I think he's the end. He's got to be. He is. But here's the thing. Even though, all right, so okay, he's doing that shit. Everybody else at the table is like They don't know what he's doing. They can't figure it out. They're it's working on them. That's annoying me. But here's the thing: it's working on me too, but it's working in a different vector. On me, it's annoying the living shit out of me. I mean, just like this guy is like nails on a chalkboard. Even though I can't say, oh well, he said this or that, the other thing that's annoying. I'm just watching him in action, watching him manipulate everybody. He's annoying the shit out of me. Thereby, he's manipulating me too, right? He gets me on a really bad beat on one time. But the thing is, here's what's super annoying. I am not getting emotional at all about the poker. In any way, shape, or form. I don't care that I lost that pot. I flopped a full house. I had the set plus the board paired, right? He fucking rivers off fourth 10. So he beats me with 4 10s. But anyway, that doesn't upset me. I'm not upset at that. And I'm not upset about the fact that even it was he who won the pot. That's fine. I've already accepted by the time I'm sitting there for about 5 minutes, this guy's a really good poker player. He's much better than me. I'm not a particularly good poker player. I am primarily because I am so transparent. I cannot hide my emotions. I get shaky when I get a lot of adrenaline, and it's just not my game. I didn't develop the same aspects of being an ENTP that this guy did. This guy has developed his FE in a very practical, utilitarian way in this particular context. My FE is very effective too sometimes, but not like that. I'm not looking to do work on that scale or on that plane, except insofar as I'm doing. Well, put it this way. It's not a tool I default to. It's something I attend to. Homie there has got it down. Anyway, here's the problem he faced at the table. I don't know, let me finish the story. So at a certain point, he was doing his shit, and I was shocked to find myself do this. It was literally, this is what happens when S takes over me. He's annoying the shit out of me, and I'm making it, what he's doing is he's making it impossible for me not to attend to the now. But that's not where I want to be. When I play poker best, I'm not paying any attention to it. I'm drawing pictures. There's some really nice pictures. Want to see one? When I was playing? Here's one I drew. During that game, I wasn't drawing pictures. I couldn't. He had fucking successfully forced my reality onto him. That was my reality during that game, was that guy and what he was doing and what I could possibly do to deal with that. I didn't even really think about that. That's the problem. I didn't think about that. I was just like, I had no intention of dealing with him, right? I was just going to ignore him and sit there and play my game and draw my pictures and work on these notes for this thing, right? Anyway, I guess I'm trying to do that, and he's still talking, and I'm finding myself listening to him. And I stand up and I'm like, don't you people see what he's doing? Fucking asswipe. And then I realized, Eric, what? That's not what you do. That's not how to do that. You know better than that. But it's because I wasn't planning on it. I had no intention of standing up and say that. None. I just popped right up and said it because I'd had enough of you fucking playing this fucking moron over here who's just like, blah, 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 not even aware of what you're doing. So, what was funny is he tried. This is the one spot where I kind of ended up winning. Is after that, I sat back down. I was like, shh. And then everybody gets all like, and I'm all kind of shaky and. But then he thought, I guess he thought that meant I was done or something. Like I was not gonna, that he was gonna play. He was gonna play with me is what he was gonna try to do. So he talks to the guy sitting next to him. So you see what he's doing over there, like this. He's talking about me to another person as though I'm a subject of scrutiny here, or a subject of observation. So, but of course, I turned it on him immediately. I turned to the person next to me and say, you see what he's doing over there is he's talking to the person next to him about me, but he's behaving as though I'm not here so that he can diminish me, and otherwise, it says something like that, And then that was the last thing he tried to pull, because he lost that one, for sure. But he won the overall battle, for sure. I came home from that thinking, I was like, okay, Eric, you're going to go down there today. You're going to take $40. You're going to buy into the table. You're going to find that fucker. I know he must be there all the time. And you're going to sit at that table. You're not going to play any poker. You're just going to get yourself blinded off. And you're just going to sit, observe, bide your time, and come up with a strategy. And if he gives you an in, you're going to humiliate him. But if he doesn't, then you've still accomplished something substantial here. You sat next to him and not said anything, not done anything. He's given you plenty of rope, right? Because he's non-stop talking. So just make some notes and whatever. Eventually, by your time, you'll come back and you will destroy him. You find the right exact moment and you will utterly humiliate him. That was my plan. I mean, it's a waste of time and money. I'm not going to go down there and do that. Instead, what I'm going to do is make a little video here. And this is why I'm a better time wizard than he is. First of all, he's a sloppy time wizard because he's got to use annoyingness to accomplish his goals. That's sloppy. It's also sloppy to have all of your to have so much of your shit be above ground, right? Like, if you're relying on constant patter, then he's fully reactive. But the problem is, like, he wouldn't be able to hang with me. He was able to beat me in that context yesterday because there's no in, right? We're not talking about anything. He's talking about nothing. He's just talking. Basically going back and forth between, yeah, that guy, he just doesn't understand how the... But I'm good with everybody. I like everybody. Everybody gets along with me, and no problem. And his fucking chipsack's growing and growing. He just keeps knock. Well, here's the thing. If you beat me, like that guy did, first of all, it goes in the ledger. It will never be forgotten. And if I have the chance, I'll lay the fucking hammer on him. Another person who's on this list, it happens so rarely, it's a short list. Heidi Priebe, if I ever have a chance, I'm going to fucking crush her. She's going down. I just need to get her in a forum with people watching. Because, why? Well, because she fucking destroyed me one time. She totally kicked my ass. And, hey, mad props to her, but that's not how this story ends, baby. That is not how this motherfucking story ends. Woman, you're going down. Stay tuned for another episode of Eric's Metaphysics stuff. After I'm done destroying Heidi Priebe. Which is, part 2 will be coming up, which is fucking Mouthy Homie. Mouthy Homie, man, do I want to make him hurt. I want to make him suffer. I want to make him cry. All right. What is the next part? Just want to give you a quick heads up of what to expect. Next part is a detailed analysis of time magic. You're not going to want to miss that one. Okay, that's how you change realities for everyone. Okay? So stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Talk to the famous people.